everyone, welcome here. If you're new here, my name is Rebecca. If you're not new here, welcome back. Thank you for coming back and watching another video. When I moved here, I'm like, I wonder if I'll get used to how hot it is. And now it's August and it's 97 degrees and I'm drinking hot tea and wearing long sleeves. I'd say I've adapted to desert life. So in today's video, I want to talk about zero waste and specifically the impact that something like a global pandemic that we're going through right now has on the movement of zero waste and using less plastic and single-use items in our lives. Because I do think that the situation that we're in right now presents some challenges to the progress that's been made. All right, so I have to apologize that right as I sat down and hit record, 3 sentences into this video, my neighbor started using a wood chipper. So you might just hear this wood chipper hum throughout the entire rest of the video, and I'm super sorry. So I do think it's a worthwhile conversation to talk about how we can stay committed to a lower waste lifestyle while still keeping ourselves healthy, safe, and respecting the rules that have been established by the community and certain businesses out there. And before we dive in, I'm pretty sure that this video is either going to be demonetized or have limited monetization or not very good reach just because of the fact that I'm going to say pandemic and coronavirus a whole bunch. So if you could do me a favor, support my channel by subscribing down below, that would be very helpful. I really appreciate it. And let's dive in. So the first place or area that I've seen a pretty big impact on a zero waste lifestyle is at the grocery store. So 2 really big things have happened since the pandemic started in grocery stores. The first is that, at least I know where I am in California, they've banned the use of reusable shopping bags. You cannot bring your own bag into a store. And the second thing is that a lot of stores have changed their protocols around self-serve items, including bulk items. And some stores have just gotten rid of it altogether. So let's first talk about reusable shopping bags. This is a bummer. There's no other way to say it. This bums me out. In some ways, I do think that this was a little bit of a knee-jerk reaction at the beginning of the pandemic that's just kind of spilled over to carry on. But regardless, we cannot use reusable shopping bags. So what I think the simplest solution and what I've been doing and works really well for me is when you get to the checkout line, you take everything out of your cart, put it on the runway? What do you call that thing? Conveyor belt? The thing, beep, beep. You know what I'm talking about. And then they ring through your groceries and they're going to ask you, do you want paper or plastic? And you say, oh, no, thank you, no bag for me. I'm going to put everything back into the cart. And then usually I can just go around to the other side, and as the person is scanning things through, I'll just take them and put them back in the cart. And then I'll wheel the cart out to my car where I have my reusable bags in my car, and then put the food into the reusable bags at my car. And then no bags are used in my shopping trip. So that to me is the easiest thing. If there's someone sort of at the end who is bagging groceries for you, I found that they're more than willing to just take everything and throw it back in your cart as well. To me, it's just the simplest solution to this issue. The other issue within this is using your own containers or bags for produce. And honestly, I kind of have the same approach to that, which is, do you even really need a bag for produce? It might be a little bit more of a hassle for you, but it'll save you having to use a billion single-use plastic bags just to get your produce from the store to your house. So I just forgo putting anything in a bag and I just put it right in my cart. I think there are 2 common objections to this, and the first is ew, that's gross. And you might not be comfortable with that, and that's fine, to each their own, but to me, I'm fine with putting the produce directly in the cart and directly on the conveyor belt, and then washing the produce thoroughly when I get home. And the second objection to this is it's kind of a pain in the butt. For instance, I tend to buy a lot of apples at once. I love apples. So I gotta take each individual apple out of the cart and then put it on the belt, and then the person who's ringing the groceries out then has to get them all together onto the scale. I'm not in the business of trying to make anybody's job more annoying, but honestly, no one's ever said anything to me. No one's ever said please don't do this. No one ever said this is annoying. And if it was, I would reevaluate that behavior. But so far, I haven't had any complaints from anybody who works in a grocery store that this is the way I do it. And yes, it takes me a little bit more time to take it out of the cart and then put it back in my cart. But if there's one thing that I've learned about living a low waste lifestyle, it's not all about comfort and convenience. Sometimes you have to do things that are a little bit more inconvenient to do a better thing for the planet. So let's talk about bulk items. I know in some of the larger grocery store chains, at least around here, the bulk section is just non-existent. They've just shut it down. I went to Whole Foods a couple weeks ago and it just was gone, which is a bummer. But that's not the case everywhere. I do know that the local little health food store here, they still have a bulk section, but it just requires assistance. So you literally need someone to work in the store who in theory has sanitized hands to actually get the stuff from the bulk bin for you. In the first couple weeks of this, I thought that the only option was for them to put the bulk item in their own compostable bag, which I was like, not the best, but I can compost this bag, so it's okay. But I just hadn't asked the question. A couple of months ago when I went in, I brought one of my reusable bags with me and I was like, can I just hold this underneath and can you scoop it into it, or can I hold it underneath and then you release the lever to let the stuff like fall into the bag? And they were like, yeah, that's totally fine. So it still is possible to get bulk items in some cases, but it's just worthwhile to ask questions about like what's possible in each of the stores that you go to. I also find that instead of shopping at like a bigger store, if you have a farmer's market in your area, it becomes a lot easier to cut down on the waste. So most farmer's markets, things come unpackaged anyways, and there's more options to reuse some of the items. And what I mean by that is like at my farmer's market, for instance, like all the berries, they still come in those little like plastic green containers. And like, I don't want to waste that, but if I bring my own bag and ask the farmer, like, can I pour these berries into my bag and then give this back to you to sanitize and use again, they're all fine with that. Same thing with like potatoes and like some other like loose vegetables that sometimes they will bag together. They'll just let me like pick it up myself and put it in my own bag because they never need to touch that bag. And then my last little hack for grocery shopping is, so you are not allowed to bring your own reusable bag into the store, but you are still allowed to carry your own personal item like a purse or something like that. So I happen to carry a backpack, like this kind of backpack. So if I'm just getting a few items, essentially what I'll do is just stick a reusable bag inside my backpack and then fill it up with whatever groceries I have. I haven't broken the rule of them having to pack my reusable bag. And when I get home, I can still take the reusable bag out and then wash it. All right, so I also wanted to talk a little bit about dining out or getting takeout food. So I know that in different parts of the United States, we're all in kind of different phases of like, can you dine in or take out or what's opened or closed? But where I am in Southern California, it is takeout only, which produces an enormous amount of waste. And on top of that, there's been a ban on using the customer's own reusable item. Like you cannot hand something to somebody who works at a restaurant, have them fill that with food or drink, and then hand it back to you. Not allowed. So everyone who's like gone out and bought a reusable coffee cup, like, what do you do now? And I want to talk about this specifically because I'm not the first YouTuber to make a video like this. I think there's a lot of conversation in the zero waste community about the impact of this pandemic. And I watched a video recently of a fairly large creator saying things that I just was like, no, like we should not be doing that as nice humans or as the zero waste community. And I'm not here to like throw any shade or like spill any tea about anybody. Like all conversation around this is good conversation, but look, I think what's happening right now is unprecedented, and I really do feel for businesses who are trying to respond accordingly. I think most businesses are doing their best to keep people safe, to respond responsibly, but also be compliant with the health codes that they're given. So can we all just agree to like not put service worker employees in a position where they're asked to break the rules that they, by the way, have no power over, and potentially put their job on the line because you want your refillable coffee cup filled? I don't think we should be doing anything like trying to convince people to do it or telling them that you were there last week and someone else did it for you. Let's just all try and be respectful that these businesses are doing the best that they can, that the employees are just there to enforce the rules. They don't make them. Let's not ask them to break them. Okay, rant over. So what can we do? To me, in the restaurant environment, I think the best thing we can do is to ask the establishment, how can we accomplish what I'm trying to accomplish, right? Ask them to help you. Say, hey, I'm really trying to lessen my impact. I really don't want to use any plastic, for instance, but I would like a cup of coffee. Is there any way that we can make that happen? So let me give you an example of this that I actually witnessed. There was a woman in a local cafe here who wanted to get a smoothie. The cafe was takeout only, and they only had plastic cups. And she was like, I'd really like to not use a plastic cup. Is there any way that we can accomplish that? So essentially what the restaurant did was make the smoothie, they poured it into a glass and then brought it over to her. She held her reusable cup and they poured the smoothie into the cup. And I thought that was like a really beautiful example of like, this woman very politely asked for what she was looking for, and this restaurant was very thoughtful and creative in the way that they could accomplish that for her. I'm not saying every business is going to be like that. I think it depends on like the business and how busy they are and how much time they have to go out of their way for you. But I think it's indicative of the fact that there's options that can work for both parties. And I think there's similar options for food too. Most takeaway food is typically packaged in a ton of single-use plastic. And I think gone are the days, at least for the foreseeable future, of you being able to like bring your own container and have them fill a container for you. I think there are certain lesser impact things that you can do. For instance, most kitchens have aluminum foil. Depending on the type of food that you're getting, you might be able to ask them that instead of putting it in plastic, can they put it in aluminum foil for you? This would work similar with like deli paper. A lot of kitchens have just like deli paper that they'll wrap sandwiches or something in. So you can always say, hey, can you wrap my food in paper or aluminum foil instead of plastic? And while these are still disposable items, they are recyclable or in some cases compostable, which just will help lessen your impact. So especially in these times, I feel like it's not about complete perfection, but how can we still continue to take steps towards having a lower impact? All right, so let's talk about masks. And I'll just caveat this by saying, I'm not here to tell you what to do or debate the efficacy of wearing masks or any of that. I think you should do what makes you feel safe and comfortable and makes you feel like you're protecting others around you as well. But this pandemic has caused an incredible increase in the production of single-use PPE items. And a lot of those are for our hospital and frontline workers, as they should be. But there's also a lot of civilians, regular people walking around using single-use disposable items as well. And from what I've gathered from the research that I've done on my own, the reason that we're all wearing masks is to protect others from us, right? If we are carrying around the virus, we do not want to get our respiratory droplets on other people. So in that case, using something like cloth that can be washed is a much more sustainable solution than using something that you wear once and then throw away. And just like your clothes and hands and everything else can be washed with soap and water to clean it, so can your mask. So it took me a little bit of time to figure out like my cloth mask routine and what I was comfortable with and how often I washed them and what kinds I needed and everything. So I'll share with you what I do right now. This could obviously change in the future as things change. So I have 4 masks. These 2 are both bandanas. And side note, I really love these. These are made by a company called Approval. They're based out of Brooklyn, New York. They're all dyed by plants. They're handmade, machine washable. I'll link it down below because they're really nice, good quality bandanas. So what I like about these is I'll just like tie it around my neck and it's almost like part of my outfit for the day. So I don't have to remember to like always like take the mask in the store with me or whatever. I can just like pull it up and pull it down as I need it. So I wear these most days. And then I also have this that someone actually made for me. So it's just got 2 hair elastics on the end. And this one hooks around your ears. So I find this is nice if I'm gonna be like doing a lot of movement or need it to like stay really secure and on, because the bandana does slip around a little bit. So this is a little less comfortable than the bandana, but stays in place a little bit better. And then the last one that I use is a buff. So this is actually something I owned in my pre-pandemic life, but now use as a face covering. And I like to use this when I'm like in the outdoors, right? If I'm like hiking or climbing or something, because it keeps the sun like off this area of me and I can easily like pull it up if I need to, if I'm coming in contact with somebody in the outdoors. So I found that 4 is a good number for me in terms of like how often I'm like out in the world and need to be wearing a mask and how often I can wash them. And look, you might not be comfortable wearing a cloth face covering. All I can really do is go on the information that I've researched in terms of the efficacy of a cloth face covering, what we've been recommended by reputable sources like the CDC and the WHO, and what I'm personally comfortable with. If what ultimately we are doing is trying to protect others from our potential infection, do those masks really need to be disposable? And on top of that, should we be wearing those masks that have the little exhalation vent, in which case you're just exhaling your potential virus onto somebody else? So ultimately, I think in this weird time that we're living in, it's worthwhile to reflect on the choices we're making and to balance out the health of ourselves and the health of others and the health of our planet and the commitment that we have to each one of those things and the decisions that we make. So with everything that I've said in this video, you know, these are my opinions. I encourage you to do your own research, devise your own moral compass, and do what makes you feel safe and good. Hey, Get out of the compost, you squirrel. All right, that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching. Please make sure to subscribe down below. I put out new videos every Tuesday. I like to make videos on things like minimalism, zero waste, intentional living, wellness, travel, outdoors, all sorts of things. So if you're into that kind of thing, subscribe. Hope everyone stays safe and healthy, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, everyone. Hot, hot, hot. I'm gonna burn my tongue. What? In the How long have we been in quarantine? What day is it? What month is it? What year is it? I have no idea. Is this gonna be forever? I've been alone for too long. Start over. You will follow me wherever I may go. My puppy.